Tom G. Mateo, chiropractor, naturopath, acupuncturist, physical therapist, co-developer of integrative manual therapy. I've studied with him for many years, since February of 2000, and have taken 115 classes because his stuff works. And I was thinking this morning, well, what did I want when I got into this integrative manual therapy way of healing? And I just wanted to run. I had been unable to run for 8 months, and 1 2-hour session, and it was solved after 8 months of trying to figure it out with regular physical therapy and podiatry and massage and rolfing and all sorts of stuff. And then years later, I ran into some trouble with bone pain and depression and couldn't run again for 2 years. And that was a whole nother bit of figuring things out to find what's the cause. And so today, what I want to do is have a video, an interview with Dr. Tom G. Mateo, centerimt.com. And I think that's it. No, imtwellnesscenter.com. I'll put the links everywhere. imtwellnesscenter.com in Connecticut. And I'm in Bellingham, Washington. And just go through a list of running injuries, because it's heartbreaking to see runners and even walkers that can't do what they want to do. And it just makes life not good. So Tom, I know you've been up busy helping a lot of people with a lot of health concerns. And so we'll take as little time as we need and get you some rest soon. But I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks for it. One more second.
Okay, no worries. And everybody, wherever you see this, put a comment. Let me know what you're dealing with, what kind of problems you're dealing with, what kind of, whether it's running injuries or not. But today's session is all about running injuries and getting your health back and getting you back on the trails and the track and the runs, and because I know how it is to be able to run. I know what it's like not to run. So Tom, anything else you want to say before we start? I got a whole list of conditions here.
Hi, Ralph. Thank you. Sports medicine is one of the favorite things we do. And it sometimes is very simple, complex, and then other times it's a full bore journey like you've been on for some of your time too. So I'm ready when you are.
Okay, great. Yeah, I work on my little boy 3, 4, 5 times a week. I tell him Noah Lyles has his chiropractor and physical therapist and massage therapist, and we keep tuning up the Ferrari, you know? So here goes. So we'll just start with one that I was bothered with a long time ago. Calf strains, shin splints, lower leg compartment syndromes, just all sorts of lower leg stuff. What are some of the things that you tend to see, or some stories you have of healing?
Well, lower leg strain, everything from gastroc problems. So we wrote 4 different books, and we took strain, counter strain from Dr. Jones. We came up with a synergistic pattern, and we have all our sports teams doing that, which helps reset the whole lower mechanism, right? And that's for the arteries and veins. And those are well-worn books, Ralph.
They're very well.
So we were working with the University of Tennessee's basketball team for 4 years, and their injury record went down from, lots of people out from hamstring groin pulls to only 3 or 4 injuries a year of sprained ankles and broken noses and injuries that way. But we took all the muscle spasm and the inflexibility out of the system. So if a muscle keeps coming back into spasm, or if you keep getting a shin splint, you have to look at it differently than traditional therapies, which I call whack-a-mole, right? If you have a pain here, you cook it, you bake it, you needle it and things. But if the spasm comes back again and again, that's probably the weak link in the system, right? That's the one that's been overused, and it doesn't have time to re-heal itself. So instead of chasing the squeaky wheel, you go and try to fix the whole system up so the wheel doesn't have to squeak anymore. So we have many different techniques to do that. We have fascial releases, we have muscle releases, which we call strain counter strain. We have tissue and bone pieces where the bone instability can get repaired at the same time. So shin splints are usually, a lot of things that happen in the lower extremity are caused even deeper in the system, called adrenal stress. And that was found 6,000 years ago, that we don't have good adrenals, our feet go flat. and we get shin splints because we're wasting energy and the shin is irritating the system. But one of the simplest techniques, and maybe we can cut and paste it, put in the notes, is we developed a technique called the secret of the subtalar joint.
Yeah.
And it's a very light fascial release that you do one technique and then you move on to the second one. And it allows the talus to get its flexibility back. And the talus has no attachments to muscles or bones at all. It's a free-floating bone. And when you do this technique, it reboots all the ligaments and the muscles around it. So now it can actually make the first platform. So right where Ralph is pointing, you notice that it's pretty flat. And we call that the first horizontal interaction with the earth. Right? So when we drop our arches, that gets tilted in and people become knock-kneed and strain up and down their chains of everything that they want to do. Right?
And that can come from as far up as the adrenals, which is quite interesting because runners tend to be pretty high strung. You know, we love our coffee and we're pretty high strung. So, and then there's a whole other body of work that you use on the soul support. So there's a lot. So the idea, like, yeah, artery or a vein you might be protecting yourself from, and that's why the muscle comes back, or a bone bruise, or some fascial restriction, or even farther up the chain into the adrenals. So, and I will post the info about the secret of the talo-tibial joint. It's a great technique. It's so, you need a little palpation skill, but I'll make a little post about that and put it in the comments. So, okay, so let me see. Good.
You know, plantar fasciitis is overstretched bottom, but you need the muscles to be strong, and you need the bones to be in the right order so that they can easily go through the range of motion. So, and I know that you're working with a running group, and they complain of the shin splints and everything else. So, you know, looking at the environment, it's not hard stuff to do, but a lot of people don't take in the co-interactions between, are they running on the right shoe? Are they running on sidewalks? Are they running on grass? And those pieces too. So throw out a name and I can give you some things that we found that are different, you know, of a health issue.
Yeah, yeah, and then the other one is I call it don't overcook it. Like don't train too hard. There's a sweet spot. I told a coach yesterday, I said, yeah, it's kind of like cooking salmon. And he just laughed, like, that's it. You know, it's like you don't want to overcook your salmon. So if you're training too hard, you're not supposed to be in pain and have muscles sore all the time. That's not optimum. So just putting that out there. So so another one that comes up all of a sudden is I see a lot of kids, you know, the young kids, the grade school kids and even beyond, and they're running around with these little knee straps because their knees hurt. And you see and the coach was correct, I believe, in the way he said, well, it looks like they have weak hips. And you see them kind of wobbling in their low back and hips, and they just look like they're running on little peg leg things, and they've got the knee recurvatum popping back sometimes, but they're wearing these little knee straps. What about knee pain, especially in young runners or just in anybody? We got knee pain, we got Osgood Slotters.
Yeah, well, as you know, well, as some people know, that all that can be, how does the foot hit the ground, right? So do their knees and hips and ankles line up? And if you sort of see somebody and they look like their knees are touching together and their ankles are on the outside, simple biomechanical pieces of that will show that the quadricep muscle isn't tracking the correct way. Again, it could be the arch support doesn't keep the little talus in line, so you get a strain pattern in that. And, you know, we have the quadricep muscle again. So, you know, if you go up to the kneecap, there is a certain pattern that the knee is supposed to follow. It's not just supposed to go up and down. And a lot of people with chondromalacia or pain of the knee itself need to really understand how that moves, right? So we start from the ankle up and start to help the people rectify that process there in those pieces. So we use, again, strain, counter strain to help rebalance the muscles. We look at their diet to see if they're not collapsing from their adrenals. and all those pieces at the same time. But those are relatively easy if you can figure out how and where and when those pieces. But again, chasing it at the specific site really doesn't help it. It delays it a little bit. But if you're dependent on a knee strap, that's really not the place for that will wear out. And we have lots of kids trying to get into other skilled type of things so they can get scholarships to school, and they don't really watch how the foot is going.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to have to wear a strap. It gets a little worse, and then you're out, and then that's
Right.
it's not good. Okay, so yeah, so the knee, and again, the same things we talked about with the biomechanics all the way up the chain. What about, we talked, anything in particular about Osgood Slaughters? Like, they bump on the knee and
Yeah.
it's getting swollen, and it's like I had some of that when I was a little kid. And
Yeah. Well, it's the attachment of the upper quad, right? And again, if the leg isn't straight, the femur isn't straight over the tibia, put a lot of stress on it. And as a kid, that's a growth center. So if you don't have perfect alignment right there of the quad moving up and down, you're sort of torquing it. And Osgood Slaughters can actually create a super big bump on the outside right there, right? So again, do they need orthotics in today's world? Are they willing? Some of the bad things is how many times are they wearing Crocs? The slipper shoes nowadays that don't give any support to the foot. It's our foot health that we don't have anymore. Where we used to have sneakers and shoes that we'd wear, and now we're sending. Some people are just wearing Crocs because they're comfortable, but they collapse in, and we're now trying to balance off that soft tissue at the same time.
So the alignment, and then some of the same things we talked about with the different stresses. And yeah, on a side note, what do you think of those carbon plate shoes now? They're really stiff, and they have super soft foam, but then they increase stability with a carbon plate. It's like a sole support like idea, except it doesn't bend it very much. It's like it loads up like a prosthetic leg would load up and then spring off. A lot of people are wearing those. It's led to a lot of fast times, and the runners are talking about how it saves their legs. I mean, their big toe isn't bending like you would think. It kind of like it rocks forward and bounces them.
Yeah.
On the trampolines. Anything to watch out for with that? Just
I would say that they may experiencing more hip and low back pain because now you're bouncing off the spring during
that is one of the kids I know that is wearing the straps, and he wore a lot of the carbon fiber plate shoes for just regular workouts. That could be something.
Right.
Okay.
It is a mechanical advantage, but is your foot tracking the right way in it?
Yeah. Is the force going even stronger? Okay. Let's see. There's I think you talked about hamstrings. Anything in particular about IT bands is different than what you've talked about, or any ideas like you got hamstrings, IT band, hips?
Yeah. Well, the IT band gets short when your knees come in together. Okay. And so they get pushed and pulled, and they're always on a good IT band stretch, and light roller work is okay. But if we're ending up with black and blues, that's kind of damaging the tissues in there.
Yeah, I've been asked about that. Like, should he be rolling? And I'm like, well, we have a different model for that. And at the end, I'm going to show one little technique that we like to use a lot. We use a few different techniques. I showed the kids at the middle school this week, and the ones that did it were like, whoa, I feel more warmed up. So we'll do that at the end if anybody's still hanging around. So okay, so still the way things are lined up. What about anything in particular about Achilles stuff? There's the Hageland's deformity, and a lot of high-level runners end up getting a surgery to take that little bump off. And
yeah. Well, if you watch their gait and they have persistent process, do their heels actually touch the ground? Do they
not much? Yeah, those guys, those really fast guys, a lot of times they don't really touch the ground.
But when we watch people walk, we can actually see if they're toe walkers or not. And that would actually be coming from a phenomenon in the back, and they actually have too short of a sciatic nerve so that their feet don't
Yeah.
hit the ground. And therefore the Achilles tendon gets irritated because that has to take up the slack of the system.
You
Right?
have a lot of recoil, a lot of bounce, but
Right.
there's a payback, and it is that descended phenomena kind of thing can affect it. If your kid is walking around with and they don't touch the ground at all, toe walkers, it kind of looks cool when you run, but that's a tough way to live.
Yeah, and there's a higher correlation of bedwetting in their past history. You know that could be actually this cranial problem we call descended sacrum.
Yeah.
Is the end result of that, and they're hypermobile in their ankles because everybody else is too tight.
Yeah. Yeah. So it can cause all sorts of probably even headaches, I would think. And
Yep.
what about neuromas, like the bottom of the foot pain, on the bottom of the toe, like, you know, it feels like a bump is under your foot, or you get like a little numbness, or foot like losing its circulation, little thing right there.
Yes. So the purpose of the foot, Dr. Ed Glazer is a podiatrist that revolutionized the orthotic business. Was saying that we should have an arch in our foot. Okay. And if the arch collapses, and there's a way of looking at the navicular bone, and you can measure it when you're sitting down, right? And you put a dot on it and you measure it from the floor. If you don't have enough good muscle tone to your foot, that bone will actually fall down and hit the floor, called pronation.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to have enough muscle strength to be able to hold that up with all our 200 or 100-pound body on top of that. We shouldn't have this collapsed foot happening. So as it pushes out and becomes very flat, and then there's no room for the nerves or the blood supply to get down there. So you create a bunion, is one of the, some people have the neuroma, some people have the callus, right? So that an ideal footprint, the callus on the bottom of the foot should look like one of those beach symbols where it goes across all the bones and then down the heel should be the ideal footprint that you have. If you got this big wadded footprint, you'll probably get a neuroma in the future because there's not enough room between the bones and the ground. So you keep smashing it until it gets hard, and then you get this lump there. So again, it's how do we support you? How do we get that to work back? And do we have all the motion? Because from the big toe on the right side to the big toe on the left side, there's over 50 joints of movement, right? There's 28 in each set of bones. If I stop one from, if I put a screwdriver into one and stop it moving, somebody else has to give the resistance to it and fight that down.
Yeah. And is toxicity an issue with causing neuromas sometimes? Is there something with toxicity?
We're living in a toxic world. We have lots of adrenal stress. We show a couple of things on how diet soda really makes the muscles super weak for a longer time. So, nowadays everybody's drinking the sports drinks, and I'd be very aware of Asper K or Asper P. They're the new names for aspartame, which is a cancer driving medication. And the newer generation is having Red Bull or the Star drink or the Bang drinks, and they're going to work out and they really feel extra excited. But in the nutritional world, you're burning out your GI system, and you're also burning out your kidneys, because some of those vitamins that we think are good for us at that level, if they're not good and clean and coming from a natural source, they can actually irritate you in the long run.
Yeah, I remember a runner that was a maniac on the trails. He was so cool, and but he used to take this stuff called Ma Wong, I think, some like super stimulant speed herb, and he ended up just not being able to run at all. He had leaky vessel syndrome. He was just like big problem for him taking those things. So yeah, hope coffee's not too much of a problem for running.
There's in the nutrition world, we're worried about hot plastics and being hot and everything like that. And I was sitting in class the other day. I never thought about this myself, and the doctor came up and said, when you're drinking out of your Starbucks cup, that little lid still is a piece of plastic that you're sucking your coffee through. So, we're going to papers and steel bottles, but that little lid that they put on top, nobody really cares about, is getting heated, and we're absorbing things through that process.
So take your own cup and drink organic. Okay, well, let's see. That covered a lot of stuff. There's this phenomenon of bone bruising, and you've talked about this before on other videos. But when you think of like I know the MRIs, they found them in knees and ankles, and if somebody's got a recent injury, we fix up these bone bruises with the bone bruise technique that you showed me, and years ago, amazing technique, and can take away pain really quick. But for the chronic stuff, like something's not healing, maybe we could finish this part off with like this idea of protection, like the body and things that aren't healing, like knee pains that just aren't healing, ankle pains, and the idea of bone bruising, or anything else you want to talk about.
Well, the body tries to protect something, right? And we found that IMT, the priority of protection is you don't want to bleed somewhere, you don't want to leak things off. And then you want to protect your bones, because that's the structure that we have to live on. And muscles will guard those with their life. That they'll always go back into spasm. So we came up with fascial release techniques that actually, allow the artery to repair itself, not to leak again. And also in the bone, in the periosteum, we can close that up. The only way to really see a bone tear is to do a bone scan, and they're not very specific, and they're expensive, and you put dye in your system to do that. Because when you're looking at just a regular X-ray, it takes 50 to 60% of cell destruction to be able to see that on an X-ray, right? So, and if you're walking and you keep stressing the area, it's never going to be able to seal up irritation. So there's a thing called plantar fasciitis that a lot of people suffer from in 20 years older and on, because they irritated all day and they don't have enough time to repair it at the end of the night. So when they wake up in the morning, the symptoms is incredible burning pain, because one thing, the foot at night just falls down, and the plantar fascia gets to its shortest position at the same time, right? So, and then when you stand up, you just rip that open and you feel this incredible pain. So we have to figure out how to keep the foot in a big posture that we can let it heal and not overuse it. And again, that's sometimes orthotics, that's sometimes strengthening the ankle and the foot, but having coordinated movement at the same time.
And I will put the link to Soul Supports, and you can reach out to us about those. Tom fits people for those. I do that over here as well. So we've got that. Well, this has been great, Tom. One last thing just came to mind. Totally different topic. Performance-based anxiety for runners, like especially the young kids. We've got our reflection therapy, we've got our peace process, we've got anything else that you want to say about for the little guys running?
It should be fun, right? And we're too much into social media and performance anxiety secondary to that. If we just ran for fun and made it part of the journey, that would be the wonderful piece. But we definitely have this reflection therapy book it's almost a meditative state that you can go in and be able to look at, and it calms down different systems. And then we also use Dr. Bach, who was a person who did Bach flower remedies that calms the system down. So, but what is the belief system of the person running? Are they running for themselves? Are they running because they have to get the best time? Are they enjoying the process? And sometimes that starts with the parents too.
Yeah. Our little guy loves running, and it's just awesome to see how much he loves it. So I'll put links to reflection therapy, and you can get that from Tom and the Bach flowers. This has been great, Tom. And I just want to do one more thing, and just for people that hung around this long, it's a thing that Ben and I use, And we do different versions. Tom showed us this stuff, and it's really cool. And so what you can do if you like is test it for yourself, walk around or jog 20, 30 meters, and then see how you feel, and then try this little thing, and then test it again and just see. So one thing we've been using, Ben calls it the rocker technique, because he feels like he's got the shoes with the rockers that just propel him forward after he does it. You can just super lightly touch, not your neck, but the first bone, just super light, like you're touching a little butterfly, and just then bring it up. And then I use the thumb and the middle finger, and not, you can touch the back of the head, but if you go down just to the first part, the soft part on both sides, there's a little muscle, rectus capitis posterior superior, on both sides. I learned that from, that was actually the first muscle we dissected in anatomy school. But there's a little muscle there that helps control a lot of stuff. And you can just touch that super lightly, just touch the skin. Kind of touch it. If you touched any lighter, you wouldn't be touching. And then just think about bringing them up towards the ceiling, and hold that for just a little bit. And if you're doing this, and you might notice that you get more relaxed. It actually helps some of the deep inner muscles, I mean nerves, that take stress out of the system. And you can hold it for a few seconds, 10, 15 seconds, or a minute or two. We actually do this while we do our little Tai Chi walking, and we do our little heel slide exercises and some other exercises. We do this while we do other movements. And you can try that, just walk around while you do this, or just sit and do this. And then go ahead and do your walk again, and see how you feel, and see how you maybe do your 20, 30 meter jog, and see if you don't feel a little different. Because we find that there's a PT named John Imes from San Diego who has a technique called PRRT, and he says that little muscle helps downregulate the vagus nerve, which controls a lot of stuff, all the GI tract and heart and lungs and stuff, takes trauma, stress out of the body. And what I found was just he uses a different technique for that muscle, but what I found is touching that top bone that Tom told me about, and super lightly bringing it up. That alone is super valuable. And then if you can that spot just under the neck, the head bone, and just very lightly touch it. And there's other exercises. I'll put links to some of the videos I made with the running exercises we use. It takes a lot of stress out of the body, and it improves the running. It's what we use, one of the things we use. So try it out. Yeah, Tom, this has been great.
Thank you, Ralph.
A lot. Thank you. So really, you guys, if you guys are dealing with a running or sports injury, or anything that's not letting you do what you want to do in life, we've got a way to fix it up, for lack of a better word. It's how Sharon used to talk about it. Just fix it up, and reach out to us. Tom's on the East Coast, imtwellnesscenter.com. I'll put the links everywhere. And I'm on the West Coast, ralphhavens.com. And let us know what's going on, and we can help you, guide you to get you back on the roads. Tom, thanks a lot, man.
All right, Ralph. So when are you signing into your new office?
We're making the proposal on what we want to do in the office to redo it, and then Jen's getting that all together. I was ready to just say, let's just sign everything last night, and Jen's like, let's do it right. So hopefully in the next few days, that we'll sign it and get the keys. I'll send you a picture of it. It's incredible. It's right on the South Bay Trail in Fairhaven, Washington. So we'll have to head over, man.
Sounds good, buddy.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Go get some rest. I know you've been up.
All right.
Bye, you guys.